most of them out here, and today I got a video for you about my heavy support tank that I use in my Goliath melee gang. So this is the build here. It's a bit, but basically this is it's a support build, and basically I run two tanks in the team, and they're basically there to be sort of like support vehicles to deliver my Extertion-Delay Brawlers, which are going to be the killers that are going to kill the enemy team. So basically this guy's job is to buff and protect the Brawlers until it's time for them to be unleashed. So he does that in a few different ways, but one of the things is with the auras, obviously. So as he's heavy, he can run the safeguard aura. So this can protect the team against ranged attacks that increases the cost of any offensive range skills targeting anyone within his aura, which is 8 meters. Increases the cost of their offensive skills by 100%. So that's just it's gonna stop, most of the time it's gonna stop anyone from getting one turned. So sometimes powerful enemy ranged characters, like especially like an Orlock Deadeye leader with heroic barrage, or something like that. They can just kill a character in one turn quite often with their shooting. So this will mean that they quite often won't be able to, because they'll run out of action points. Or if they otherwise might have killed like 2 characters, this will sort of limit it so that only one guy will go down. So that's a really powerful defensive skill. But a lot of times you won't need that, so he'll switch to Aura Weapon Check, which will just give extra 15 AP to everybody in the Aura. So that's just going to really increase the damage ability of your Brawlers if you can get that extra 15 AP onto them, it's not always easy to get them to actually be able to use it because they have to sort of stay within the Aura. But what you can do is kind of have run your heavy out first, set up the aura, then move your brawlers out into the aura. This is in a position that's out of line of sight from the enemy, so you can't be sort of easily attacked. Get your brawlers to buff up and cast delay, and then the next turn either your brawler can go first and go out and start doing damage, or your heavy can move out first and run into the enemies and sort of soak up some Overwatch and everything, and then set the aura up on the enemies. And so then when the brawlers are ready to go out, they run up, join the heavy, attack your enemies, and they're inside the AP aura then, so they get that extra bit of action points. So that's basically what it does with the auras. The thing with the aura though is the safeguard aura doesn't affect the heavy, so the heavy himself can be targeted with full power of ranged attacks. So it's quite important that this heavy support character be really defensively strong. So I've had a bit of a change I've changed the way that I do my defensive characters a bit now. So I'll cover the standard stuff first of all. So formation, if there's 2 characters in his aura, he gets plus 40% damage absorption, 2 stacks, 1 stack for each person in his aura, up to 2 stacks, so 40%. And then you can also use a pre-buff that he can buff on himself for plus 20% damage absorption. So then he's got 60% total damage absorption as long as he's got at least 2 teammates in the aura. And then I think the most powerful defensive passive that you can get is this one. Vanguard gives you 75 extra HP, and the minus 10 maximum action points doesn't really matter too much because you can only recover 50 AP per turn. Normally you have a 60 AP cap, so you can sort of save 10 AP for the next round if you don't use it all. But if you're using your action points each turn, you only can get 50 action points each turn, so this doesn't really matter too much. But that extra 75 HP can really increase your survivability, especially on a character like this that has so much damage mitigation. So formation and preparation are kind of the basis of your defenses. But then is this is girding stim. So basically every time you take a crit, then you get 40% extra damage absorption. You just from when you get a crit, you get it for the rest of that turn. So until the start of next turn. So this is really powerful because it's 40%. And quite often when you do get killed, when you lose a character, they will have suffered a crit during that time. So, ideally you get a small crit to start with, and then you pop your 40 damage absorb, and then you're all good. But even if you take quite a big crit from the first hit, and then this pops on, your damage absorption then potentially goes from 60 with formation and preparation to 100. So you're not going to be taking much more damage. But even if they've got some damage absorb penetration, if they potentially, just say you get hit for like 150 crit, you're over half of your HP are gone. From 275 you're down to 125. So potentially one more crit's going to kill you, or two more normal hits is going to kill you. But then your damage absorb goes from 60 to 100, so they don't kill you. Or just say they've got 20 penetration, it goes from 40 to 80. So then those crits are going to be much weaker. Obviously, any further damage after that's going to be much, much weaker. So yeah, basically it's really hard to kill this character in one turn because he's already got 60% damage absorb, and this gives you another 40 as soon as he takes a crit. So, there are times when you need it the most, when you're most likely to be dead after you've taken a crit, is when they've got the most damage reduction. So yeah, it's very, very durable. The other thing about this is that you can take other skills that give you defensive abilities, like what do you call it? Like self-preservation, right? So self-preservation, when you get heavily wounded or gravely wounded, you get plus 35% hit resistance. And that's great because if you can stack hit resistance, then you can make it so that every hit on you is going to be a graze or whatever. But the only problem with that is if you get a stun, like if you're taking a real beating during your turn, if the enemy hits you like 3 times or something, or they're in melee with you, just battering you, this might trigger when you get below 40 or 50% health. But then by that stage, you might be stunned. And once you're stunned, you don't get any hit resistance. All your hit resistance is negated. So even if your hit resistance has gone up to like 120, as soon as you get stunned, boom, no more hit resistance. So if they're able to penetrate that, even just to land one hit to get a stun, then that takes it away. And that's the same with like lead by example there's another one, a similar skill to this, that gives you hit resistance when you get low as well. Not lead by example, lead through pain I was thinking of. And there's another ganger level one like this as well. So these type of skills, they give you hit resistance. Hit resistance is great, except for if you get stunned, in which case you've got no hit resistance, so it doesn't do anything anymore. And then also skills like a lot of skills get taken off when you get stunned. So no, that one's good actually. Sorry. So like preparation, for example, is removed if the user is stunned. So you got your 20% damage absorbed, but then you get like beaten up, and then this disappears because you got stunned in amongst all those hits that you took. Whereas girding stim, doesn't matter if you're stunned, you just get 40 damage absorbed as soon as you take a crit, lasts till the end of the turn. So basically this guy's going to still be alive at the end of the next turn, and then that's when your Iron Will comes in, because you can gain up to 50 HP, plus you get 75% hit resistance and stun resistance. So that's and that kind of feeds into what I was saying before as well. So you can this gives you hit resistance and stun resistance. So stun is what's going to strip away your hit resistance, because if you get stunned, you lose your hit resistance. So Iron Will is really powerful because it gives you hit resistance and it gives you the stun resistance to protect that hit resistance, so it remains in play. And with these other skills that are going to make it really hard for an enemy to one turn kill you, that means you're still alive at the start of next turn, and then you can pop your Iron Will, which heals 50 HP. But because he's got 14 toughness, his healing is increased by plus 156%. So that 50 HP becomes 125, 130 HP. So, so this character can potentially, take a crit for 150, take it, then he gets his girding stim pop, so it reduces the damage. So he takes a few more hits, but they're only like 40, 30, 50, whatever. And then he's got like, maybe he's under 100 hit points, 80 HP or something. Then he pops his Iron Will, and he's back up to like 220. And he's still got all his defensive abilities. So he's very hard to kill, which means that he's going to keep that safeguard aura up and be protecting the rest of the team the whole time. And also he can body block shots as well. So if one of you guys is sort of crouching and then he gets shot and he's quite low on health, and the enemy still has more activations before you can move him or get him to safety, but you've got this guy ready to go, then this guy can move in the way of that other guy and just block him with his body, and then they can't finish off your other character. So he's a really good tank. And also, and you don't need to use a leader skill. He doesn't need to be a leader. He can just be a normal character. These are just general character skills, no leader skills. The other thing that's really good about this character is defensive reaction. So if you've got enemy overwatches, that can sometimes stop your. So it says just to say again, this character's there to be a vehicle to help my Extertion-Delay Brawlers get into melee combat to destroy the enemy characters. So the other part of it is getting rid of overwatches. So the enemy might have a couple of characters set up with Overwatch. Now those overwatches are unlikely to kill my brawlers as they're going into melee, but the pinning from the shots reduces their movement points by like 20 movement points per time they get hit, I think. So that can really stuff you up, because if your brawlers can't make it into melee combat, then they can't kill everyone. So basically this guy can come, this is where this guy comes out. He's already got his 60% damage absorbed from formation and preparation, and then he can just run into their Overwatch, take a shot from the Overwatch, and then that gives him plus 20 damage absorption. And it's after suffering damage from an Overwatch. So it's not per shot. It's not per Overwatch. It's per after suffering damage. So in theory, as soon as you take the first hit, then that should go up. I'm not sure if that actually works that way, though. I think it might calculate the whole hit in one go. But definitely after you've taken the first Overwatch, if there's more Overwatches, if they've got 2 or 3 Overwatches, you can just keep running through them and get more and more damage absorbed. And then after that, you can just use your Iron Will to stack your health back up to full again. But now you'll have all this damage absorbed until the start of next turn, and you've got your normal 60% as well. So so very good at taking Overwatches as well. This character doesn't actually need to do any damage. His job is just to get hit, basically, and to keep these auras up. Either the action point aura if you don't need it to safeguard, or the safeguard aura if you're really worried about shooting. And in the first turn, in the buffing phase, he puts Battle Advice on all of the other melee characters. The main good thing about Battle Advice is this minus 75% cost of ambush. So quite often if your melee characters just run out of AP, they've killed everything they can, maybe they can't reach anything else, they quite often have a few action points left. And with this minus 75% cost, that means like a two-handed ambush with both weapons, instead of costing 30, will only cost like 7 AP or something like that. So that's quite powerful if you can put that on a couple of your melee characters. The other thing that he can be used for is, of course, shooting. So he's got heavy-footed skill. So if he changes to his heavy weapon, he might just be using melee weapons most of the time. If he changes to his heavy weapon, then he can shoot with a 35% discount. So his two-handed weapon shots with a heavy weapon only cost 19 instead of 30. And because my gang in particular is very melee focused, it is actually sometimes handy just to have him be able to pull that out and shoot. Usually he's just going to be kind of in amongst the rest of the guys, forming like a bit of a bunker for them to hide with until they're ready to go into melee. But if you do need to do some shooting, he's got the heavy weapon in his backpack. He's got a heavy stubber, or normally you'd want an auto cannon because it's got the better range, auto cannon or las cannon perhaps. But yeah, he's just got a heavy stubber at the moment, but I'll probably upgrade that later. So he has got the heavy footed, so he can do some good damage with his heavy weapons if he needs be. That's pretty much all I wanted to say about him, I think. I basically just wanted to kind of point out that stuff about the defense, how hit resistance is fantastic unless the enemy goes out of their way to penetrate that hit resistance in order to land a stun, which completely strips all of your hit resistance. Damage absorb is not stripped in that way. Some of these skills do deactivate when you get stunned, but this girding stim doesn't. It activates when a crit happens, which is when you most need it. It's very big. It's 40% damage absorb. Lasts till the start of your next turn, so you can use Iron Will. The other thing I wanted to just quickly say about Iron Will as well is that it's very flexible. I think Vanguard's the best defensive passive, and Iron Will is the best defensive active. So Iron Will, you can use it to heal yourself, like I said, a big heal, and plus after you heal yourself, you're going to have this huge buff to hit resistance and stun resistance. But you can also use it preemptively. So if you think there's a chance that the enemy is going to one-turn you, as in when they get to activate after you move this guy, they're going to kill him before you get to move again. They're going to kill him in one turn. Then you can actually pop Iron Will preemptively, even when you're still at full health. So you don't get the healing effect, obviously, but you still get this 75% hit resistance and stun resistance. And as I was saying before, the stun resistance protects that hit resistance so that it stays in play the whole time, unless you get debuffed by a saboteur, of course. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the heavy. Yeah, it just works really well with a leader. You have an order leader that for Goliaths that can give you cheap attacks, and he can be used to. The one other thing he's used for is defensive ambushes. So you give him 2 stun weapons, so ideally 2 spudjacks. The axe has. The axe has a bit of stun on it. It's got 25% stun chance. Ideally, I'd have them with 2 spudjacks though. They have 50% stun chance each. And then you put him in ambush stance, and basically if an enemy melee character runs up to him, he'll come out, intercept that character, hopefully get a stun on them if lucky, and then it will cost them 15 AP to disengage from him, plus 20 AP to get the stun off. So potentially 30 AP, he's just debuffed off the enemy brawler that's trying to come in and kill all of your team. And if they don't disengage and they try and kill him, then he's got the most damage absorption out of any character on the team. So he's kind of like the one that you can most afford to lose. And his job kind of like by that stage is to die as well. So even if he does die, like you haven't lost any damage potential because he doesn't do damage. He's just there to stop other characters getting killed. So even if he does die, like he's still done his job, He's just there as a vehicle to get those DPS brawlers in, so make sure that they survive long enough to get into combat. And he's sort of like a moving wall. He can move that safety zone up forward into the enemy. So you can keep a safety zone back behind cover that you can hide in. He can move forward first and move that safeguard zone into the enemy area. So it's quite flexible, quite cool, and yeah, just a good tank build. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks, guys.